How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome to Geek Critique. My name is Dakota. Loki's first episode is brimming with really fascinating concepts, Easter eggs, and lore, all of which we'll be breaking down in this video. Only one thing is certain, however. This series is going to leave a huge mark on the MCU and maybe a turning point in the way that we perceive it. And Loki is right up my alley. Who would have thought that they'd literally make an MCU series that explores and messes with the literal timeline? I'm thrilled. Many of you probably know me from my MCU timeline videos, which is awesome. Thank you. Welcome back. And this is going to be a crazy series to try to put on the timeline, but that's for another video entirely. Please be sure to like this video if you enjoy it so that others can get it in their feeds as well. And subscribe if you haven't already, because we got a lot more Loki content coming in the coming weeks. The episode begins in 2012, just after the Battle of New York, but specifically follows the events in Endgame that led to Loki's acquiring the Tesseract and creating a portal taking him to the Gobi Desert. Almost instantly, several TVA agents led by Agent B-15 take Loki into custody, but not before they scan him, which tells us a number of really fascinating things. Usually when it comes to graphics or on-screen visuals in the MCU, whether it's Iron Man's heads-up display or Sword's Wanda footage, the visuals are nothing more than random text or impressive graphs. As a fan of digging through stuff like this frame by frame, I was happy to note that the graphics on most everything in possession of the TVA is super telling, thought out in advance, and accurate as far as I can tell. Note the date in the bottom left of the device, May 4th, 2012, the day the Avengers arrived in theaters in North America, but also supposedly the day of the Battle of New York. In my previous timeline videos covering the Avengers, I was one day off and placed the Battle of New York on May 5th, the day after. So this is super cool that we're officially getting clarity on that at long last. There are other important features listed here as well, like Loki's variant listing, L1130, which is mentioned later in the episode on both documents and in his trial.
Laufeyson. Variant L1130, aka Loki Laufeyson.
The most important feature on this I'll get to in a moment, but let's jump forward to the next time this device appears in the episode. The scene in Aix-En-Provence, France, apparently not only takes place in 1549, but according to the device, it occurs on December 4th of that year. Fascinating that Loki is apparently giving gifts in December.
Devil-bearing gifts.
An interesting point is made that the kablooey gum won't have a temporal aura when scanned, which is supposedly typical for Loki as they chase him across the timeline. But fascinatingly, this doesn't apply to the device found at the end of the episode. Note several things here. The device they scan, labeled as a quantum axe shovel, is anachronistic of the 21st century, though the exact year is blurred out. Anachronistic means it belongs to another time period, so it certainly doesn't belong in 1858 Oklahoma. But that begs the question, if Loki is hiding the temporal aura of items, and yet they found an item we assume to be his, why does this item have a temporal aura? Who is this person under the hood, if not Loki? It's also worth noting the manufacturer, Advanced Idea Mechanics, because the last time we saw them, or A.I.M, was in Iron Man 3, a company run by Aldrich Killian. What could it mean that they're bringing this into play? How does A.I.M have access to quantum physics? Let's pull away from these details briefly so that we can discuss other particularly cool and telling points in the episode. The TVA exists outside the timeline.
You know, time passes differently here in the TVA.
This is a similar concept to another place Loki will have gone to later in his life, namely Sakaar in Thor Ragnarok.
Time works real different around these parts.
The city, or Chronopolis, appears to revolve around the three timekeepers that Miss Minutes tells us about. Side note, Miss Minutes is awesome, and if there's a single episode from this point on that doesn't feature her, we riot. We're not going to get into the multiversal war she discusses in this video, because I have a theory forming about Loki's glorious purpose that I want to set aside for another video entirely. But we now know there was previously a multiverse of many timelines, but now there is only one, at least according to what the TVA are willing to divulge. Traditionally, fans of the MCU have noted that this timeline is called Earth-1999-99. This was labeled in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe in 2009 and follows the pattern of new universes getting their own number designation in the comics. The primary comic universe is labeled Earth-616. Why is the MCU designated Earth 1999-99? Well, nobody knows. And it's never actually been featured in any MCU projects. But if I were to guess, I'd suggest that it is a reference to Kevin Feige's first producer credit on X-Men, which began filming in 1999 in September, the 9th month. And then I guess they added another 9. That said, the MCU has seen fit over the years to ignore such a designation and has since flirted with the idea of calling the prime MCU timeline Earth-616. We got our first glimpse of this in Eric Selvig's chalkboard notes in Thor: The Dark World, and again, more prominently in Spider-Man: Far From Home, as Mysterio claims that
this is Earth, Dimension 616.
Though many just assumed that he was lying to Peter at the time. The first episode of Loki alone mentions Earth-616 at least 4 times. On both of these screens, we see that the timeline segment reads 616.432. Later, as Loki's reel ends, we see it read twice over ETH-616, Earth-616. Considering that all the other text seems to be so well thought out on all things written down, it's safe to conclude that Marvel has officially adopted the concept for their sacred timeline. Earth 1999-99 is almost certainly no longer the official designation of the MCU, and it appears that now Earth-616 has taken that place. Considering there's only one timeline supposedly, it's interesting that the TVA is calling this 616, but here we are. And I know this is going to upset many, especially you comic book fans out there, but it's important that we understand that this obviously isn't the same 616 as in the comics, but a vastly different adaptation of Earth-616. Whereas 616 in the comics is the prime timeline, 616 in the MCU is the sacred timeline. I hope that makes sense. Before we end our discussion, I think we should at least make some mention of how the Infinity Stones are such a common item that pops up in the TVA, as apparently the lust for power drives people to take the stones against the will of the Timekeepers. Of course, the stones have no power in this dimension, but it's interesting to note that it appears the rarest Infinity Stone is the Mind Stone. We only see one of them, used as a paperweight in the credits. Also, some fans have even noticed that Peggy Carter may have been taken by the TVA. What do you think about all that, and what are your thoughts on Loki so far? Let me know in the comments down below. I have a pretty big theory brewing about Loki's glorious new purpose, so if you're interested, please subscribe for more. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. It really does go a long way in helping the channel out. And be sure to check out our most recent video, which is our second entry in Geek Critique's Timeline Journal, which we talk about Star Wars timelines, MCU timelines, where Eternals is going to be placed on our MCU timeline, and much, much more, as well as what our MCU timeline is going to look like in the future. So if you're interested in that, please be sure to visit that link. We got a couple new patrons from that, so I really appreciate the 3 new patrons that we got for that video. Guiguio, Tom Bacon, and Alejandro, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. You guys are helping support our channel, and I appreciate that so much. But if you would like to check that out, again, click this card right here. Have a good one, guys.